Good afternoon, everybody out there in Google Plus and on YouTube and out in the internet verse here. My name is Carmen Rojas. I am the owner and managing director of Rojas Consulting. We are a digital marketing and strategy group here in the northern New England area. Today you are watching Where to Put the X, which is an HOA that we started to kind of help people in their marketing and in their business strategy, try and figure out where they're going wrong, what they're doing right. So in other words, it's where to put the X, where do you start, where is the problem, all of that good stuff. So that's what our basic premise of the show is. I want to remind everybody, please add your comments into the event room, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can comment over on YouTube. We do see that here. We have comment tracker working today. So so we will see all of your comments. So any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to go ahead and add them into the event stream, and we will make sure that we answer all of your questions and give you the best feedback that we possibly can. So today I have the extreme pleasure of having a lady who has become one of my good friends, Miss Christine L Bowen, who is going to be talking with us about social networking. And so I'm going to let Christine introduce herself first, and then we're going to jump on into it. So if you haven't posted any questions, you still have a chance to go ahead and post some while we're learning a little bit about Christine. So Christine, tell us about yourself. Who are you? What are you about?
Well, hi, Carmen, and hello, everyone out there in Internet land. I am so excited to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me. As you said, my name is Christine L Bowen, and yes, I'm very passionate about social networking. Technically, I am a consultant, a creative consultant for entrepreneurs in the design or branding, networking, and lifestyle. And my specialty, if you will, is my beloved network marketers. Love to help my network marketers with their online presence and offline presence. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk about this topic because you know me, Carmen. I can have a whole 24-hour conversation about social networking.
Yeah, we almost did when we were getting set up for this a few weeks ago. We were like, what are we going to talk about? Well, let's talk about this, and then just went on and on and on. So
yeah, the preparation for the show was awesome. I enjoyed that conversation.
Great. So that leads me to believe that this is going to be one heck of a good show. So I'm excited to have you on as well. So, you know, and it's interesting that you mentioned, you know, the whole network marketing thing, and I just want to go ahead just to clarify for the audience, this is not a show about network marketing, but this is about, you know, again, some of the strategies and things that we can use, whether you're in network marketing or outside of it. So just to clarify that, because, you know, believe it or not, I had somebody once say, you know, I thought all your HOAs were about network marketing, and I'm like, no, I've just done one out of maybe dozens about it. So now I have to make sure I let people know.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. That's why like I said, my niche is network marketers because I'm a network marketer, but that's not all I do. So I believe that what we're going to discuss today applies to everyone, anyone who is actually online and, as you say, prepared to receive the info.
Absolutely, and I have nothing against network marketing. It's not been something that I've, you know, that has worked well for me in my career. But you know, I definitely think that there are a lot of things that we can learn from network marketing and people that are doing it well and being successful at it that we can apply to other areas of, you know, so-called traditional business, you know, whatever you want to call it. So with that being said, let's jump into it. Can you explain to us, give us your definition of social networking?
Social networking, to be literal, it's social, where two or more people engage in conversation, even babies network, and it's networking. So it's a combination of, it's not just online. That's what I want to say. Social networking happens offline, online, when two people come together and start having a conversation. And we can network for personal reasons, and we can network for professional reasons. And I believe today we're going to be focusing more on the professional side, but that's my definition of social networking. It's two or more people engaging in conversation.
So how is it different, or how should we think of it differently than just traditional social media or content management, or what's different about it?
Well, for me, me, social networking in any context should be focused on the person, the people that we're interacting with. And I find that, a lot of us, because the trend right now is being online on social networks, a lot of people relate social media, whether it's Facebook, Google Plus, Twitter, what have you, and they just say, okay, I'm on social media, so I'm social networking. And to a certain extent you are, but you want to look at if that conversation that you're having with people is one way or two ways, because like I said, it's two people engaging in conversation. So if we're online and we're just simply sharing information about what we do or what we know or something we find value in, the question you have to ask yourself is, okay, well, who's responding to this information?
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's a really good distinction. And while we're doing our definitions, Roy was asking earlier about, I put a post out there that basically said, if I could define what movers and shakers are. So since we're defining things, we'll go ahead and do that so we can put away the dictionary for a second. But what I meant by the movers and shakers, and in that whole post was just, this is going to be a great show for those of you who are wanting to change something. If you're wanting to, change the way you network because you want to get more business or you want to get more, followers or engagers or whatever your goal is, you just have to be ready to make a change and to do something different. If you're just wanting to, sit back and observe and, look at this and say, oh, that's nice, and put it back on the shelf, then you're welcome to do that too. But I think those of you who are going to get the most out of this are the movers and shakers, the ones who want to change something and are willing to change something within themselves and the way that they're strategizing, particularly their social experience. So that's what we were talking about, Roy, excuse me. I always call him Ray. Gosh, Roy. Anyways, so we were talking before when we were setting up for the show about what, the difference in the platforms and how this relates to, social networking. So obviously, since we're on Google Plus, we both like Google Plus, but what in particular do you think is better about Google Plus as relates to social networking?
What isn't better? It's Google Plus for me. Let me just rewind and dial it back. I can only be who I am, right? So I gotta and go back. I've been online since 1993. Okay, with the days of AOL, and I call it something else, but this is being recorded and it's live, so L stands for something else for me. The days when you could connect and not really connect, and the little guy's running and then he stops. So I've been online personally for a long time. Let's just put it that way. And professionally, I got to a certain point in my business, realized that I wasn't growing my network, so I decided to venture online to grow the network. And this is live, so now I forget exactly what you asked, so repeat the question.
The question was, what is it that you think is unique, I guess, about Google Plus that makes it such a good place to do social networking?
Gotcha. Thank you. The reason I gave the backstory is because as I approached the online space, I used my offline networking strategies, if you want to call it, because I'm going to define that shortly, and move those to my online mindset. So when I approached social networking professionally in 2010, I thought, okay, my goal is to connect with people and for them to primarily know who I am, because people do business with people they know, like, trust. So in order for me to make that connection, I need to first present myself. And so when Google Plus came around, I was extremely excited because, as my friend Roy Montero knows, I'm a video gal. I love face-to-face. Personally, I believe nothing replaces the human touch, especially when it is actually in person, offline, where you can actually have other senses involved, sense of smell and sense of touch specifically. But with Google Plus, it's as close as you can get with the video interaction. The Hangout feature is, it's like creme brulee compared to what you can do on other networks. It's just delicious. And to be able to have this type of engagement on top of your other efforts online is priceless. And for me, the other thing that sets Google Plus apart, of course, is Google is the #1 search engine. So positioning yourself here, focusing on the right things, as we're going to get to in the meat of this discussion, you can really position yourself to be found by the right people, the people who are looking for you.
That is cool, and I think that's a lot of the reasons why I like it too. I love video, but I like words, and I like, I'm kind of a wordy, verbal kind of a person. So, the opportunity for me to just write and write and write and write and write with no limits, just I like that. And also, being able to talk in a social platform that you can't do it really anywhere else. So I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Those are probably my primary likes for Google Plus as well. So we've kind of talked about our favorite. What would you probably say is maybe your least favorite?
About G Plus?
No. About your least favorite social platform for social networking. I know, tough question.
It is. And honestly, I don't have a least favorite. And let me explain why. First, I have to definitely acknowledge Roy's comment here, and I totally agree with him. Social media is the platform. Social network is the action. It's the conversations that we're having with people. Yep, there it is. There it is. Yeah, totally agree with that. We're on the same mindset there. And why I say there isn't a least favorite is because I do believe the most ideal is Google Plus. Let's just start there. It's the most ideal for me in terms of it being my home base, and I recommend that for any entrepreneur online. But each platform to me has different value. So it depends on where you are in your entrepreneurial journey and what your goals are. So when I first entered the space to grow my network, Twitter was the place for me, and I still tout Twitter as the most prime environment to connect with new people. There's something about that platform that it focusing on the people and engagement, it is the best place for making new connections. And then I move over to Google Plus to deepen those connections. So each platform to me has a different purpose. I'm a fan of Instagram. Those who know me know I love me some Instagram. So Instagram to me is useful for getting into a more personal side, an aspect of your life, as well as the professional. You can do a nice balance, and it's accepted. It's not out of the norm. Where Google Plus environment, sure, you can share personal, but that's more within your circles, private circles, and then you can share your more public information to the public. So I do like that Google allows you to partition it. So each platform for me, it has a different purpose. LinkedIn is for professionals. So if you want to connect with a CEO or another executive, or if your primary market are commercial businesses, sure, LinkedIn is the place for you. So for me, I love them all. I told you, social networking is my passion. So I am a fan of all the networks. I just choose Google Plus as my primary.
I understand. And I think and as the platforms change, you know what I mean, then their usefulness and their utility adjusts as well. And who knows? Maybe there'll be another one that's just around the corner that's just going to blow everything up. You never know. But I know, around Google Plus, we often badmouth Facebook and and tend to not speak too highly of that particular platform. My personal opinion, and I'll ask you to share yours in a second, is Facebook does have its usefulness. You cannot ignore how big it is and how how many billions of people use it. You just can't ignore that. So I think it just depends on your whole strategy for how you're going to use your platforms. If you're looking for, and it's kind of one of those, like, I want Rand Fishkin to do a whiteboard fight, or maybe you already did, about the myth of social media, that people are going to read your social media posts and go, you know what? I have always wanted a digital marketing strategy. I'm going to call her right now. Because I saw her Twitter post, or I saw this awesome Google Plus thing, or even a Facebook post, I am going to call right now. And it just doesn't work that way. So if you go to Facebook or any of the platforms with that expectation, it's not going to work.
Right.
You're going to be disappointed no matter what you do.
Right.
But particularly, Facebook, for us in terms of a business platform, I would have to kind of rank it as probably one of my least useful platforms in that sense.
Yeah, it depends on your audience. Now, we can go into the politics of Facebook in terms of privacy issues that, a lot of us have with Facebook as a platform. Notwithstanding that, again, first of all, the approach that I take with my partners that I'm consulting with for social networking, I teach and consult social networking from an instinctive perspective. Because if we're not doing something that brings joy to us in anything in life, we're going to give up. At some point, you're going to throw your hands up in frustration, and it's just not. And even if you persist, it's not joyful. You're not getting what you want out of it. So I take a very individual approach with my clients for social networking. So if Facebook is the environment that you are most familiar with, start there, and then you can get your, in quote, social networking feet wet, and then you can start to explore. A lot of entrepreneurs want to just jump onto these different places, don't understand the environment, then they're not getting what they want. They're spinning their wheels and not going anywhere. So Facebook, to me, is where I have a group that I'm working with right now in phase 2 of their social networking experience, and 99% of them are on Facebook, and they're making progress. So it really just depends on what your goals are. For you, not for you, Carmen, for someone who's looking for businesses as opposed to individuals, I still believe you can find the right people on Facebook. It's just knowing where to find them.
You're right.
Is it ideal, though? No, I would send you over to LinkedIn right away.
Exactly. And for us with, kind of not a limited, but, we try to make sure that our time on social media is spent very, very well, and extremely efficiently. So, and there's been a lot of days, particularly lately, as we've been, really kind of trying to get ready for fourth quarter and starting to get people set up for next year and strategic work. If I'm going to have to drop one, that I'm not going to get to that day, it's probably going to be Facebook. But I wouldn't do the same with LinkedIn, because that's just like you said, we're a B2B business, so it just makes more sense for us to have a strong presence in LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. It's not a diss to Facebook for that reason. It's just right. It just makes sense.
Right. And if I may add to finish my thought on the privacy issues, I teach my clients and myself. I don't teach anything I don't practice. So if you don't want it known, and we said this in our pre-show, if you don't want it known, don't post it, don't share it, don't provide that information.
And don't put it in the cloud.
Don't put it in a cloud. If you don't want it to be found, because even if you mark it private, it can still be seen, it can still be hacked, it can still be used for whatever, these are free platforms, and we're giving them, by putting our information there, we're pretty much giving them rights to the information that we share. So for me, if I don't want it known, I just don't share it. I don't post it at all. I use a Google Voice number as my contact number. I have my .com, that's the email I choose to use, and then that forwards to my personal email. So, there are things that you can do and precautions you can take. But, if FB is not your flavor, aka Facebook, then don't be there. Mm-hmm. There's so many other platforms to choose from, including Google+. So.
Right. And I don't, not everybody knows this about me, but I used to be a personal trainer for years before I got into marketing and strategy. And people used to always ask me all the time, what's the best exercise to help me lose weight? And I would tell them whichever one you want to keep doing.
Exactly.
If you like to swim, Great. Go swim every day. Let's figure out how we can get you to swim more often. If you like to rollerblade, or if you like dancing, or if you like yoga, or if you like whatever it is that you like, that's the one I'm going to tell you to do more often. It really doesn't matter that you can burn more calories if you go climb mountains or, you know, run uphill for 30 minutes. If you hate it, you're not going to want to do it.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up. That's such a great analogy, because that's exactly what I share with my social networking partners. I don't call them clients. We're partners because we can all learn from each other. So I do want to say, and if we may get into a little bit more of the mechanics or the mindset, I'd rather say the mindset of social networking, because I believe my definition may be a little bit different from what entrepreneurs hear generally.
Go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and jump into that? That's a great segue.
Okay, cool. So the approach that I take is something that is natural to us. And unfortunately, we grow up and we put on a hat called intelligence. And then we start, you know, using strategies and tactics and methods and things that will perhaps quicken the process. I'm not sure. So for me, when I came online, my concept offline was really to just, first of all, be crystal clear on who I am and who my target audience is and who I am to the core, so that people will be able to connect and relate to me as a human being. Because you mentioned this already, Carmen, if you just jump online and start posting your stuff for people to click on and buy, well, people, as one of my mentors says, Jeffrey Gitomer, people love to buy, but they don't want to be sold. And people do business with people they know, like, and trust. So when we come online, yeah, we know who we are to a certain degree. Yep, we know what we know. And yep, we pretty much have a good idea of what we want to offer, whether it's a product or a service. But all we are to the person on the other end of our post is a name. And if they don't connect with us personally, well, how on earth are they ever going to be interested in what we have to offer? So the approach that I use is an approach that has withstood the test of time. And I don't know if it's because it seems so simple. They say, oh, it's too easy. It couldn't be that easy. But it really is. And it is the golden rule. It's treating others as you wish to be treated. And a lot of people take that concept and misinterpret it, meaning, okay, well, I love purple unicorns, so I'm going to send Carmen a purple unicorn. Now, if Carmen doesn't like a purple unicorn, well, that means nothing to her. And that's, quite frankly, not the golden rule. To me, the golden rule is treating people with respect, with love. People want to be heard and acknowledged. People love to be celebrated, right? So if I want to be treated that way, why not treat others that way? And I have a slide. I'll share it if you can open up the photo sharing on the event page. It doesn't have to be now, because I surely can't multitask while I'm on an HOA. It's based on scripture, and if you're not a believer, that's okay too, because the law of reciprocity stands regardless of what you believe or not. What goes around comes around. So what I like about the scripture that I use is it says to be proactive and take the initiative to treat other people the way you want to be treated. So if you're online and you want to be heard and you want people to click your links and you want people to share your stuff, well, take the initiative and do that for other people that you're genuinely interested in, that you're genuinely feel a connection with. So for example, when you get online, like when I jumped onto Twitter 4 years ago, I was really just searching for people that I had things in common with. And if I found value in what they were sharing, then I would naturally share it with my network. And that in itself provides a connection and, in quotes, a foot in the door to create a relationship. And see, a lot of people don't look at relationship building enough, I think, in their online or their social networking activity. It's so focused on what we want to offer as opposed to what value can we provide to this person? What value does this person provide to my network? I find that when you have that kind of mindset, opportunities that you had no idea would be there present themselves, bigger than the vision that you had for reaching out to a certain person. So I let go of all of that stuff, and I just truly connect with people. It's very simple.
Well, I love that. The golden rule idea is so simple, it's brilliant. But I think, to speak to the idea of, kind of, I don't know, almost reducing people to transactions, as you talk about, and it's an easy kind of a trap to fall into, because I know I did it for a long time. Sure. My natural mindset is to be very analytical and to see things in very clear black and white, it's good or it's bad type of, that's just kind of how it's efficient for me. It was the way my brain worked. And, and it wasn't until really I, got more into Google Plus and started meeting people and talking to them to find out that it's not necessarily that that's wrong, but there's a better way to do it. And a way that can be more effective. And I think that that's something that people who possibly think like I do have to really kind of grasp, is that it's not that you're wrong, because we don't like being wrong. It's not that you're wrong or that everything that you learned is worthless. Exactly. It's just there's a better way to do it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, and I share this with my team all the time. It's not being wrong, it's what's effective. What's the most effective and what's the best return for your investment of time, online or offline? So for me, yes, there may be, in quotes, easy buttons that you can press or strategies that you can use rather, that may produce some short-term results. So I'm not saying that those kinds of strategies don't work. What I'm saying is, if you focus on relationships, focus on people over the content of what you're sharing, not saying that you don't share content, but that should be down the road in the relationship building process. And it happens organically, where people start sharing your stuff instead of you trying to push it out. People will be naturally pushing it for you. They're called brand champions. So Roy can please, if you can share the comment or the quote by Bob Burg, because he says it perfectly, where Bob Burg in The Go-Giver, correct me if I'm wrong, Roy, says, focus first on opening the relationship. Like you said, don't focus on the transaction and the purpose or your B point. Just focus on the person, because to me, you'll have both short-term results and long-term results. So no matter which direction you turn entrepreneurially, you're still going to have that person in your life, rather than focusing on a person as a transaction. You may get one sale, you may even get two. But what happens when you move on to your next venture, or you start another venture like I'm about to? Those people will be constants in your life. So to me, the assets, it's a network. Have you heard this, the saying, Carmen? Your net worth is determined by your network.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Is that a Kiyosaki quote?
Robert Kiyosaki. I'm not sure if he's the originator, but he uses it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's one of my favorite quotes, because it's people. We're here on this earth to help facilitate each other in whatever it is that we're doing. And if we take that approach and use that mindset in our professional activities or networking online, it will just take you so much farther. Mm-hmm. So much farther.
Yeah, and I have to play devil's advocate for my ESTJ peeps like me, who because I really did struggle with that, and I think Manny and I have had some lengthy conversations about it. Manny St. Victor and I, Dr. Manny St. Victor. Okay. And it's and again, it is a hard thing to really understand. You know what I mean? If you're somebody who's as analytical as I am. As to how to make that work, because it sounds touchy-feely, frou-frou, like you just want to hum in a corner and sing Kumbaya all day. And, it's like to somebody who's as analytical as I am, that's kind of how that all sounds, and I've really had to unlearn a lot of that. And a lot of what we do with the strategy work here, particularly when we talk about social media content, things like that, is to kind of unlearn a lot of that people, a lot of people are surprised when we talk about strategy, because yes, we do design an editorial calendar, but it's not about how many times a day you post. I could care less. If you post once a day and it's great, and it connects with people and you build relationships out of it, I would take that over 80 posts a day that are fluff and nobody cares about. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. A couple of things come to mind. See, I love talking to you, Carmen. We get to go on forever with this conversation. A couple of things come to mind. Number one, yes, I'm not saying that you just leave it up to the ether and voila, all of a sudden you have, people knocking down your doors for whatever product or service you offer. There's still, in quote, strategy. It's just like you said, it's unlearning what the masses are saying, and it's not even learning the new strategy, more so it's reminding ourselves of what we did back when we were under 10 years old. Because for me, the best networkers, the best salespeople, the best of everything are children. Mm-hmm. This is when we're untouched, we're not as jaded, we're not as intellectual, and so as children, we're persistent, but we still understand what it means to share. And even if we forget, and this what you brought out to me the other day, Carmen, as a parent, inherently we know what to share with our children. Like you mentioned, you had an illustration with your son on the playground. And he wanted to do all the talking, and he said, well, nobody likes me. And you said, well, you need to listen a little bit, Mm-hmm. So it's not that we don't know, it's just that those inherent and instinctive actions that we would normally take are drowned out by the masses and status quo. And so it's for me, yes, do I share content? Yes, but my focus is on the people and the relationships. Let me just give an example, since you're a black and white or a numbers gal. Mm-hmm. The next guest on my HOA that's coming up next month is kind of like a celebrity. And so her publicist needs information in terms of, well, what's your viewership like and things like this. Do I think that's a concern to have? No, but it is something that you should be able to track, right? So I hop on over to YouTube, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that my last few HOAs, I've had hundreds of views. Now that's without me pushing those HOAs or replays out every day on a Hootsuite scheduled post saying, let me get this HOA out so people can watch it. No. I have people who are watching it, and because of the connection we have and the value that's provided in that piece of content, it's relatable to them because they're connected to me and they naturally share it with their networks. So it's a kind of a reverse process to what people typically do. People want to lead with content where we should be leading with the relationship, because your explosion on the social stratosphere will be, to me, much grander when you focus on the relationship.
You're right. And I did post that story. I wrote a blog about it, and I posted it a week or so ago. And it was more about content, because I was feeling like people were just what did I say? They were resecting, dissecting, and bisecting content to the point where it was just like, really, it's not that complicated. I mean, it's funny because it's like on one hand we could say having good content is not easy to do, but at the same time it is easy to do if you think about what you're really doing. And the playground analogy was one that I wrote about. And it is it's kind of funny when you have children, you can sit back and see all of these things. And it's funny because you'll sit there and you'll watch him, and he's crying, and well, somebody hit me with a rock. Why did they hit you with a rock? Because I wouldn't play with them. Well, what, and so then you figure out what's going on, and then how it translates over into other things. And if you're not willing to give and take, you know what I mean, in terms of your content or your relationships or whatever, yeah, you might get hit with a rock.
I love it. I love you, Carmen. Well, I'm going to quote two of my mentors. I have to get up, so I got to grab my book.
But for those of you who are just joining us, we are just a little bit past the halfway point on where to put the X. I am Carmen Rojas, sitting here with my good friend, Miss Christine Bowen, and we are discussing social networking. So she just reached behind her to grab a book, so I'm going to let her go ahead with her quote. Go for it.
Yeah, I have to make mention of, these notions, yes, are instinctive. Doesn't mean we cannot learn from the right people, as I say. So two people that I feel get it, I have to give them their props because this particular book here transformed my social networking life. And it's called The Little Black Book of Connections by Jeffrey Gitomer. And it says 6.5 assets for networking your way to rich relationships. He's one of the tops when it comes to selling, to sales. And so I found this book in the airport in 2010, right around the time that I was focusing my efforts to grow my network. And on the very first 2 pages, the inside cover and the first page, he says, all things being equal, people want to do business with their friends. All things being not quite so equal, people still want to do business with their friends. That's just the way it is. So a lot of times I put myself, actually all the time, I put myself in the shoes of the potential, right? So if someone calls me or if someone's posting online and they're just saying, click here or make money now or do this, I ignore those things. So if I choose to practice that, well, do I expect a different response? These are the types of things I ask myself. I have another book, but I'll pause. You want me to share the second one?
Go ahead. Share the second one.
Okay. The second one I'd recommend, On Marketing by Scott Stratton. On Marketing. And the byline says, stop marketing, start engaging. And he has a quote in here that I've actually paraphrased. And basically, my paraphrasing of his quote is, if entrepreneurs understood the impact that building relationships has on their business, they will make building relationships their business. You see, everyone wants to sell, but no one's making a connection with each other. And so you find that you're grinding and you're online. And Carmen, you mentioned this earlier. You want to consider the return that you're getting out of your efforts. So my philosophy is, if what you're doing currently isn't working, why not unlearn, pause for a minute, learn some new things, and try those strategies and see what happens. And then you can measure your results on both sides and see what works for you. I didn't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, again, we spend a surprising amount of time unlearning. When we do strategy for people, because and some of it is, I think that our society wants, we want to know how. We want to know the how. Do this, do that. Click here, click there, and I'll have $1 million, or whatever. I mean, that's what they want. That's what people seem to want. And so, unfortunately, some of us in the marketing industry have kind of fallen into supplying that need because they figured out, what, I could make a lot of money if I just told people, and I reduced the relationship building experience into a series of how-tos and 5 top tips to whatever. And that's what it became. And so it became this overly, like I said, dissected, very complicated process.
Yeah, you touched on one of those sore spots for me, because especially in my industry, there's so many, especially internet marketers, who capitalize, like you said, on the fact that people are looking for an easy button. And so it just perpetuates, you have the people who are capitalizing and the ones that are just sucking and feeding right into it, praying, like you said, for this big payday. And again, my point is, even if that payday comes, it's a one-time deal. To me, the value is in the network, and that's what we should be investing in. That's what we should be cultivating, is the network, which boils down to relationships. Because again, whatever kind of, if we want to get technical right now, whatever kind of funnel you have for whatever product or service you want to offer and whatever avenues you're choosing to funnel those people, well, if your lifeline or your network is dry or scanty, I'm from Jamaica, so if it's scanty, you know, you have just a couple of people, dried up people flowing through that lifeline, well, only a few are going to fall into the funnel. Mm-hmm. But if you're investing your time in people and making it your business to build relationships with people from a pure place, not just so that you can sell them something, but connect with the right people where you have overlaps. You mentioned Dr. Manny St. Victor. Hey Manny, love him because he speaks of core value alignment. And when you can align yourself with the right people who naturally complement you and vice versa, and you start to naturally celebrate each other in whatever it is. Like I just promoted his concepts. So to me, that's where the focus should be. Yes, have a strategy. Yes, have a funnel. I have funnels. I have sales funnels. But that's not my focus. There's this thing called the right time. Mm-hmm. And the right time in each relationship is different, is a different time. For Carmen and I, it could be the first 5 minutes, which it wasn't. And it's not even the goal. The right time presents itself if you are focused on the relationship. The best networkers are listeners. So people tell you what their hot buttons are. People will share with you what they're looking for. People will share what they're lacking in life. And it's just for us to be astute enough on the back end to have a strategy, to have a focus and say, okay, aha, I might have something that can help you, as opposed to meeting someone for the first time and saying, let me sell you something, not even knowing if they want it. Okay, I'm coming down off the soapbox.
Well, and you know, one of my things that frustrates me, and I think it's a common frustration, I think, with people that are not network marketing well, is that there are people out there that turn friendships, you know, that they've had before they started network marketing into transactions. And you know, they start inviting them to parties, and then it becomes, unless you're buying something from me, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. You know, and it really does kind of sour the friendship because it's turned into more of a transaction. Yes. And you know, I know I personally have had people that, you know, I was really good friends with that get into it, and then, like I said, I began to feel like I wasn't a friend anymore, and I was just, you know, someone on a hit list for them.
Right, exactly. That's what I was just thinking, someone to hit up for some, you know, sales. And unfortunately, network marketing gets a bad rep because of that. But that mindset of treating people in the network as transactional as opposed to relational, that mindset is pervasive across any kind of entrepreneur. I've discovered that online, especially as more and more people I've connected with, and more so of what I have observed, that mindset transcends network marketing. It's just that network marketing is not understood and it gets the bad rap. Perhaps because network marketers as a whole, the masses are more overt with the way they market themselves, especially online. But, you know, in network marketing, I always share this with my team, network comes first in that terminology. It's not marketing to your network, it's network marketing. So you have to have and respect and nurture that network that you have, and the marketing comes naturally, as opposed to push marketing. It's more attraction or pull marketing, if that makes sense.
Right. I mean, and I've had people, and this was not my analogy, but, you know, that have had negative things to say about network marketing, and they're like, you know, I don't want to sit down on my Thanksgiving dinner and be passed around a bunch of brochures.
I know. I don't either.
You know, pass the potatoes and take your stinking brochure back. You know,
exactly. Let me drink my wine in peace.
Right, you know, and if I'm gonna have a girls' night out with my girls, then I don't want to talk about the latest diet shake or something. You know, I don't want that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I want relationships. I want to have fun with my family and hear about what's going on in their lives, or you know, be able to vent with my girlfriends over a good glass of wine and not have to have a catalog shoved in my face.
I
Um,
agree. I agree. And I'm glad, you know what? This is why I love having conversations with you. I'm so happy that this perspective has come up because now, for those of you who are listening live and or watching the replay, exactly what Carmen just described that the typical network marketer does, because I got to stand up for my industry. We are all not like that. And if
I
you
know,
are a network
I
marketer, please
know.
don't be like that. Um, that analogy is exactly what entrepreneurs are doing online. Every time they send out a post that has something to do with their product or service, one of the things I don't like, honestly, about Facebook are the sponsored ads. I
Mhm.
despise them because I don't care. I don't care what you have to offer. I don't care what it is. I don't want to see it in my eyesight. I'm like you. Can I just be on Facebook in peace? And so I love that you brought that up because that's how people feel, whether or not you're in the industry. If you're online and your goal is to offer a product or service, think about how that other person is feeling, their experience, not what you want to do. What is the other person feeling on the other side? They may have just signed on to Facebook to check, how their brother-in-law is doing, not to buy something from you.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, one of my favorite network marketers, and he was on the show several months ago. His name is Robert Dunbar,
I remember.
out of South Florida, and he's very successful as a network marketer. You know, doing very very well with Legal Shield. But one of the things that I liked about him and why I've continued to have a relationship business wise with him, even, I mean, I'm not a customer of his anymore. I don't have Legal Shield through him. I've moved out of the state, so he's not making any money off of me. There's no monetary value in him keeping up and us, you know, chit chatting every so often. But the thing about it is, you know, when we first got started, he was referred. I was referred to him by somebody else who knew him and knew that he would be, you know, a safe person for me to go and talk to. So, you know, we met one time and he had everything to show, you know, about Legal Shield and whatever. And at the time I was like, okay, this is interesting, but I'm not, you know, I'm not there yet. So what he did was he would send me a message about once a month and just say, hey, how's it going? That was it. I mean, it really was, it was short, but it had nothing to do with Legal Shield. It was just, you know, hey, how's it going? How's business? Because, you know, it was a business plan that I was looking at. How's business? How's, you know, whatever. And, you know, sometimes I would tell him, oh, it's great, it's whatever. And then he would leave me alone for another month. And he just made himself aware periodically. And when I was ready, you know, and I said, you know what, I do need to get that. I know exactly who I can call. I just said, hey, Robert, I'm ready to go. Can you bring by that contract? and,
Exactly.
and literally,
Exactly.
he was like, sure, I'll be there, you know, in an hour. And he came from all the way across Jacksonville, which, for those of you who don't know how big Jacksonville is, a very large city, to meet me someplace to do it. It was fantastic customer service, and you know, I'm telling this story on his behalf today because of the relationship that he built over all of this time and doing it right. You know, it was, like I said, one shot to tell me about the product or service, and then after that, it was all about what did I need and what was best for me and my business, and that was what I love him to this day for that.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that. And I love him for just showing that's the value of he was putting more interest on you and just making himself available for, guess what, the right time. So when the right time came, you naturally thought of him and said, hey, you know what, I would like to, secure some services for myself. So we can apply that across the board, that same principle. I wanted to just shout out a couple of people in the audience if I can.
Go for it.
I wanted to say hey. Well, I said hey to Roy already, and he shared the Bob Berg quote.
I saw that.
There it is. There it is. Bob Berg, the Go-Giver quote. Focus on opening the relationship and not so much on closing the sale. Exactly. I also wanted to give a shout out to my girl Cheryl Deuce. Hey Cheryl. And And a new name for me, but I still wanted to say hi, Kim Armstrong. Said she was excited to get those book recommendations, so I just wanted to, you know me, I'm always including the peeps.
Absolutely. And Tanya said she's in a meeting, but she's here. So hi.
Oh, nice.
So just I did see her comment out there too. So we definitely want to shout her out. I really do appreciate everybody who's listening to this, and we're moving towards the end of the show, which is just amazing how fast this has gone by.
I know.
But I wanted to make sure, you know, what else do we need to know about social networking so before we run out of time? Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you think, you know, is just critically important that we need to make sure we share?
Well, for me, what's on my heart to share right now, I can give 3 simple keys to social networking success that I think will be helpful, because I know we kind of spoke of relationship building, and a lot of people want to know, well, what steps do I take? So 3 keys for me. Number 1 is to connect with people. Let go of the objective. Don't forget the objective. Have a B point, but as Roy shared from Bob Berg, open with the relationship. So connect with people. Allow people to show you who they are, and allow them to see who you are, so that there's a true connection and bond form. So that's number 1. Number 2 is engage. Engage with people. So now you're connected in terms of, like on Twitter, you follow someone. On Facebook, you do the friend thing. What do we do on G+? We circle. So now that you're connected, meet with each other. Meet and greet with that person, whether it's voice or video. I would highly recommend it. Move it from the mysticism of just text and literally engage with these people. Now, if you're shy, you can engage in text as well through comments, right? You can do private chat. You can comment on their posts, share their posts. That's engagement. But to me, move it from that stage to where you're actually interacting with the person, because if you can get that personal touch, even if it's just voice, it's going to create the bond even more. And the last and most important key, all 3 are important, is serve. Serve. Ask yourself what you want people to do for you, and then grab the initiative and do it first for them. Find ways that you can help your network. And one of my favorite one-liners, which is actually a book, is dig your well before you're thirsty. Create a network of people. You know so much about them, enough about them, so that when you meet other people in your network and add them to your network, you can make connections. Become a connector. If someone's looking for a product or service and you know someone in your network that offers that, connect them. And don't attach yourself to the outcome of that connection. Trust me, the law of the universe, it works, the law of reciprocity. So give, 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 or as I said, serve. So connect, engage, serve. Those are my 3 keys.
That's great. That is truly great. I can't remember who originally coined the phrase, but the one that reminds me is helpful is the new viral.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, so you know, don't worry so much about being viral, but be helpful. And if you're helpful, viral will happen.
Amen. That, you know what? That sums up our whole conversation. I love that quote.
Yeah, I want to say I heard Martin Shervington say that, but I don't know if that was his original thought or if he was quoting somebody else.
Okay, we'll give him props for it.
We'll give him a little shout out for that one. I maybe it was a David Amerlin that he was sharing. I don't know, whatever. But I'm pretty sure he shared it. But
one of the giants. I consider them the giants. I walk in the footsteps of giants on G+. This platform has just, it really has connected me with people, including yourself, that is helping me personally get to that next level in my journey. So thank you for that. Thank you, because you embrace me, and our relationship is a perfect example. Mm-hmm. I met Carmen technically through an HOA, her HOA, and I was digging what she was presenting, commenting in the stream, and she sent me a couple of shout outs. And then We had a little bit of conversation back and forth through text. And recently she was in my area, in the DC area.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I'm right around the corner from you. Let's have coffee. And I'm thinking, absolutely. And it was beautiful. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, so here I am. I'm honored to be on the show. And this is just my little way of supporting her on her journey. So our story, I think, is a good recap or summary of what we've been talking about.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think it's been, it's really funny because I think people that are close to me probably would recognize this, that this is really the last year or so, particularly since I've been on Google Plus, has really been a shift in the way that I see people and relationships in the context of business or whatever, you know. And I came to Google Plus originally, you know, for business reasons, but I found a whole group of people that I consider friends. You know, and while we do have some common business interests and goals and objectives and whatnot, you know, they're legitimately my friends. You know, when you and I met and had coffee, I introduced my husband to you, and you know, we hung out and had a great time. And I don't remember if we talked about business at all in that
Nope.
conversation. If we did, it wasn't very much, and we certainly didn't pitch each other or anything.
Nope. I had a brochure in my bag. But the right time didn't present itself.
Right. So I mean, I think, and it was great, and I'm sure that, you know, at some point in time, perhaps the right time will come up, and we'll do that, and that's great. And I think, you know, you and Manny and you know, Roy and several other people that I've met on Google Plus are just evidence of the fact that it's not about the transaction, that you can build relationships with people. And it was funny. I once had a debate with Manny, and I was like, you know, I don't care if these people want to come over to my house to watch the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? This is not, I don't care about that. And he was like, but you should care. You know what I mean? He was like, why would they not? Why would you want to do business with people that you can't stand, or, you know, that you wouldn't want to invite over, or that you wouldn't want to enjoy something? You know, if anybody knows me, knows I'm a sports nut. So why wouldn't I want to share my passion with somebody else? And I should care about that.
Sure.
You know, and so it really has been eye-opening, and I think you guys you in particular are evidence of the fact of that shift in my thinking. And so it worked for me. So I'll testify that to all my fellow ESTJ friends out there, building relationships works. It really does.
Yeah. Success leaves clues. That's a saying that we use a lot in my industry. And if we have successful people talking about these things, like I said, why not try it on for size? What if it works? Oh my goodness, right? Mm-hmm. So just be open-minded. The beauty of entrepreneurship, like you said, Carmen, is we get the ability to choose who we work with, who we align ourselves with. It's totally different than an employee mindset. Mm-hmm. Employee mindset, you're stuck with the people that you work with, and you make it work or you don't. Some people are not coming over to your house for the Super Bowl, but in this kind of environment, we can choose who we align ourselves with. And why not have fun while building business? I love to have fun. I don't know about you all out there, but I love to have fun.
Yeah, so do I. And so I think that's a really excellent place. I mean, we could keep going and going and going, but I think that's a great kind of point to kind of tie it off. I do want to let everybody know, well, I mean, let you do this first. Where else can we find you? I know, you know, you're on Google Plus, of course. Where else can we find you and find out more information about you and CLB?
Thank you for asking. You can just visit christinelbowen.com/meetclb. And my invitation would be just to connect. If anything I've said has resonated with you, let's just connect, because it's in the connections that the magic happens. We cannot know how we can serve each other if we don't know who each other is. So if you like what you're hearing, if you want to know more, or if you just want to connect, you can do it on that page. So christinelbowen.com/meetclb.
Excellent. So that is a fantastic place to go if you want to know more about Christine. If you want to know more about Rojas Consulting, you can visit www.rojasconsulting.net. That is our website where you will find all kinds of information about us and digital marketing and kind of the difference in how we do things over at Rojas Consulting. So I hope that that is interesting to those of you out there, and you'll take advantage of that. I'm also on Google Plus all the time. I've got it on my cell phone too, so anybody that's looking for me or wants to connect, you can pretty much reach me like that. So I wanted to let everybody know next week we are going back to kind of the entrepreneurial process steps with Stephanie Sims. So we will spend the next 5 weeks, the entire month of October, talking more about DIY marketing for entrepreneurs. So those of you who are out there and are trying to do this thing, maybe you're a solopreneur or you just have a few people, you're tired of eating the ramen noodles in the garage. So we are going to be looking at marketing and what things can we do in our marketing that help move our businesses along. So we've got 5 weeks of that coming up with Stephanie. We are finishing up some great guests, that I think you guys will love. Some of them are well known here on Google Plus. Some of them are well known on other social platforms. So I'm not going to let that out of the bag just yet because I want you guys to watch and wait and build up a little anticipation for that. So look forward to invitations and whatnot from us next week as we move on with that journey. So thank you again, Christine. I appreciate you so much for coming on the show today. It was magic, darling. I loved it.
Thank you. I loved it too. And I love you.
All righty then. Well, goodbye to everybody for this week, and we'll see you again next week. Have a good one.